Here's a collection of my videos and thoughts, ideas and theories on the Chris Watts murders. I've put them all together in one place. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future videos, please let me know. Enjoy. During Chris Watts' prison interview, many times he hinted to the fact that he wasn't in control of his actions. It could have been him trying to avoid accountability, or it could have been his way of suggesting that there was someone else making him do what he did, or influencing his behaviour. Have a listen.
I felt like it was longer almost. It felt like time was standing still. It's kind of like I just saw my life just disappearing before my eyes, but I couldn't let go. It was like somebody else, like if you picture somebody else around you, holding your hands, holding you, keep you from not letting go.
It's just intimate because you're right in there, using your own hands. It's a lot different than someone standing across the room and you shooting them or something like that. So
It just felt like somebody was like behind me, just like I just couldn't let go.
It's interesting.
When she was gone, it was just like I didn't know what was going on. It's like it was like a traumatic, I don't know what you call it, traumatic event type, and everything, and like I was shaking. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I had done. I still wasn't in that right state of mind. I don't think like I was in control of what I could think or what I could do at that point in time.
how you get to that point,
I don't know. Like I said, it was just like something else was controlling me that day. I had no control over what I was like to fight back.
Yeah.
Chris mentions something or someone being behind him and that his hands were being helped to commit these horrendous acts. He mentions that he can't recall thinking or has a hard time remembering details. He blames something being an entity or a demon almost, but what if that analogy was in fact a person forcing or pushing him to carry out these diabolical acts? And what if that person was his cult, satanic loving mistress, Nicole Kissinger? This is yet another example of the many lies Nicole Kissinger said during her interviews with law enforcement. She was asked, does she know the location of Bella and Cece's school? And she answered, no, she doesn't.
It's not sustainable.
Where did his girls go to school?
I don't know. He never actually told me. Like when I asked him once.
But then, later on in the interview, she says she does know where the school is because she was trying to find an apartment for Chris to be close to the girls' school. This was a blatant lie. She also wanted to know where Shanann was living. Just another example of the level of control that Kessinger had and the paranoia.
Like, how close is she gonna be to you? You should be within like 30 minutes of your kids, so they're close, and like you want to be close to their school and close to your.
Like I said, this is just one of many, many lies that Kessinger said during her interviews with law enforcement. And the biggest question of all is why lie about these things? What else did she lie about if she had nothing to hide? Chris Watts describes God of giving him a chance and an opportunity to not do the things he did. He talks about the Saturday night when the opportunity was handed to him to go to the Rockies game. He chose to go with Kessinger instead to the Lazy Dog restaurant. Have a listen.
And I told her I was going to Iraq, and I told you I was going to Iraq.
Yeah.
It felt like, like looking back at everything, like just like reading the scripture more and more now, I can see God gave me opportunities to get out. Like even my friend Jeremy Lindstrom, he even invited me because it was his daughter that came and watched the kids on that Saturday night. And he was like, hey, you said we're going to a Rocky game, you want to go to the Bronco game and watch the Arizona Cardinals? Like, in my mind, it was like, go. Just say, hey, I can't find a babysitter. Yeah. And maybe that would have been like like a light switch in my head goes off, light switch in her head goes off, maybe it just goes different directions. That was kind of like my last opportunity to kind of get out, it seems like. So, I wish I would have said, yeah, let's go. Yeah. And I think that would have just put me on a different trajectory.
So then, Shanann, did she actually say you're never?
Why, if he hadn't have gone to the Lazy Dog with his mistress Kessinger, would things be so different? What was said or occurred there for him to say, basically, that his family would still be alive today if it wasn't for the meeting at the Lazy Dog? And to describe it, that God himself gave him an out to change the outcome of his entire family being annihilated. He points to this event at the Lazy Dog as the turning point to his family not being here. The meeting at the Lazy Dog is paramount to knowing why things turned out the way they did. It brings up questions: who was there other than Kessinger? What was said? And what happened to turn Chris from a loving father into the monster he is today? Thanks for watching.
Is there a reason why they shouldn't? It's another thing. They know I had an affair. And they know. I can't complain about that. They know you had an affair. Is there anything else you want to tell me? What's
every time I think about it, I'm just like, did I know I was going to do that before I got on top of her? I don't know.
Really? That's an interesting thought, Chris. You don't know if you knew.
Just like the whole everything that happened that morning, I don't know. Like I try to go back in my head. I'm just like, I didn't want to do this, but I did it. Everything just kind of like.
Felt like you had to?
It just felt like it was. I don't even want to say it felt like I had to. It just felt like there was already something in my mind that was implanted that I was going to do it, and I woke up that morning and it was going to happen, and I had no control of it.
You never thought about it before?
It was just like, I don't want, like when, like just like in the sentencing hearing, that prosecutor said it takes 2 to 4 minutes for something like that to happen. Like why can't I just let go? I didn't.
Oh, that's interesting.
I just let
Was
go.
it feeling like it was in motion and you just couldn't stop it?
Yeah, it was just like, I don't even want to know what she saw.
clear that you were not honest during the testing, and I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened. And I feel like you're probably ready to do that.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise. Chris, I know stuff.
It was just so strange. But the thing I know, like where you're talking about playing the game, is when the TBI agent and the FBI agent, like when the TBI first the woman, when she like questioned me for hours, and then after those hours of interrogation, she puts me on a polygraph, and then I'm like, exhausted at this point. And then after that, like I'm sitting in there alone, and I hear them. It's because the film intercom doesn't pick it up. I hear them outside the door, the FBI agent comes up to, how did you do? And she said, he did pretty good, but I think we get some more out of him. And they come in with this game face and say, okay, you lied. I'm thinking to myself, wait, I thought she just sounded pretty good. And I didn't question about it, I just believe what she said that they said I made it. But I know for a fact she said, you did pretty good, but I think we get some more out of him. I'm just like, I'll only think about this stuff way after it happens.
All right, Chris.
Have you talked to her at all? No.
I'm hoping she hasn't written me in a different alias or something. I'm not talking to her that way.
Oh. Oh, so your attorney tried to call her and she wouldn't answer?
Yeah, because I remember her phone number, but after that they figured out, I guess, where she lived. They left a business card there. And she just, pretty much after like the 5th attempt, she said stop. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here is theory number 2 in my series of videos relating to the Chris Watts murder case. These videos are just ideas and opinions and theories of what could have occurred the night Shanann, Bella, Cece and Nico was murdered. You have to remember, this particular video isn't what I 100% believe happened, and it's just like it says, a theory, on all the evidence, on all the contradictions and coincidences and everything we have in this case. So as you're watching it, keep an open mind, and maybe it will spark an idea in your own head of what happened that night. So here it is, theory number 2. Nicole Kissinger, Chris Watts' mistress, despised everything about Shanann Watts. She'd got with a man that had everything. Great kids, a good house and job, and a wife that she was so jealous of. And during her relationship with Chris, she tried to point out the differences between her and Shanann, like the fact that Shanann would like the materialistic things in life, and tried to insist that she was nothing like this, and that she didn't need the car, the big house, and everything that comes with it. She was already planting the seed in Chris's head. Kessinger would frequently ask Chris if he'd spoken to his family, his mum and dad, enforcing the idea that Shanann had created a barrier and turmoil between him and his own parents. And Kessinger knew intimate details of Chris's and Shanann's financial situation. She made sure that she was aware of his income and what debt he had, strengthening the idea for Chris to believe that what he had with Shanann was a farce. Chris and Kessinger would frequently talk what their plans would be moving forward with their relationship, including looking for an apartment, and during these conversations, Kessinger was very keen on knowing if Shanann would be living close to Chris, already showing signs, before Chris had even split up with Shanann, that she was the jealous type. I believe early on in the relationship, Chris and Kessinger would discuss what life would be like if he didn't have children or a wife, trying to tease him over to the idea that he would be debt-free with no responsibilities and he could live the life he was sampling with Kessinger. And when Shanann and the kids went to stay with her parents for 5 weeks, Chris was supposed to be staying at home, but the thing is, he wasn't at home. He was constantly, every day, every night at Kessinger's apartment. She made sure that he had no reminders of what his actual family was, no pictures on the walls, no reminders of the things at home he'd bought with Shanann. Kessinger was isolating him from all these things like a predator, keeping him away so that she could poison his mind, and Chris was a willing victim. That Kessinger and Chris openly spoke, maybe in the beginning as a joke about getting rid of his family, fantasizing about a life without everything he used to hold dear. Because on the Saturday the 11th of August, he went to a restaurant called the Lazy Dog with Kessinger, and Chris to this day regrets, out of all the things he's ever said, this event of him going to the Lazy Dog is one of the biggest ones he wished he'd never done. So you have to ask yourself why this event of simply going to a restaurant with his mistress 2 days before his kids and wife was murdered, why this was so paramount to what happened 2 days later. Well, one of the theory is that him and Kessinger fine-tuned their idea and their plan to once and for all to rid him of his wife. And in this theory, I don't believe the original plan was for Chris and Kessinger to kill his kids. I believe the original plan was to kill Shanann, but something went wrong. So it brings us to Sunday, the 12th of August, the night before the murders. Chris and Kessinger were on the phone, finalising the finer details to their plan. In interviews after everything occurred, both Chris and Kessinger deny remembering what the conversation was about. But I believe they both definitely know exactly what they were talking about. Because you have to ask yourself, why deny knowledge of the conversation happening in the first place if there was nothing criminal being discussed? So Kessinger and Chris had their plan. They would wait until Shanann came home from a work trip. One idea is that Kessinger was waiting in the basement until Chris did what he thought he had to do, and she would help him clean up. And when Chris was arrested, he didn't have any defensive marks on him at all. So I believe Chris waited until Shanann fell asleep and choked her out from behind, either using his hands or his arm to put her in a chokehold and snuff the life from Shanann. But it is my theory that something went wrong. The kids heard the commotion in Chris and Shanann's bedroom, and either both or one of them came in and saw him doing what he was doing to Shanann. And Chris Watts now knew he could never have the life he wanted with Kessinger because there was now witnesses to him murdering his wife. It was Bella and Cece. And the only way out of this mess that he had created was that his kids could not be alive to testify against him as witnesses. Chris knew he wouldn't be able to kill his own children, but he had a partner in his devious plan. She was waiting downstairs in the basement ready. Kessinger and Chris knew that to get away with what they'd just done, they couldn't have any witnesses, including his children, so one of them would have to murder Bella and Cece. So it is my theory that Kessinger was the one that smothered Shanann and Chris's children. And when Chris said in an interview later on that he would never hurt his children, and he was adamant about this fact, I believe that to be true. But it was in fact Kessinger that did do it. So in the early hours of Monday morning, with the help of Kessinger, Chris prepared the bodies of his wife and kids and put them in his truck. Chris's neighbour Nate, his CCTV footage picked up Chris leaving that morning, and some say, including myself, you can see a person leaving the house, which is a woman, who I believe to be Kessinger. She followed Chris out to the worksite, Service 319, but before this she made a quick phone call to her good friend Jim, either to confide in him what had just happened or to tell him that the plan had gone wrong and that he was fully aware of Chris and Kessinger's plan in the first place. But either way, she made that phone call outside the Watts house that morning, that is a fact. And by the time Chris and Kessinger had got to the worksite, they had very little time to dig a shallow grave, dispose of the kids' bodies, all before work colleagues turned up. So in the time he had to do it all, it can't have possibly been done alone. There's also evidence from Chris's phone. He didn't walk up and down the oil battery steps. So was this Kessinger that walked up them steps and disposed of Bella and Cece in the oil batteries, and it's Chris that dug and buried Shanann's body? It's my opinion in this theory. I also believe that the bombshell information that Kessinger provided law enforcement was that she was aware of the murders. She knew exactly where they needed to look and struck a deal with law enforcement for her information and involvement in it all. And she simply just broke first, and she threw Chris under the bus, approaching them first and cutting a deal. Remember, this is only a theory, but with this case from day one, things didn't make sense. The official story and interviews with all involved don't add up. It doesn't make sense why a seemingly loving husband and dad would do this, but once Kessinger got her claws into him and planting seeds of doubt and ideas of a life he could have with her, it doesn't make sense that she was present at the Watts house that morning, but yet in interviews it wasn't even asked about. It doesn't make sense that Chris killed his kids if all he wanted to be is to be with Kessinger. It doesn't make sense that the oil site, Chris's data doesn't show him walking up and down the steps. It doesn't make sense that he says if it wasn't for meeting Kessinger or going to the Lazy Dog, his family would still be alive. It doesn't make sense that if Kessinger's friend Jim could provide her with an alibi, that she was adamant to leave him alone and leave him out of the investigation. All I know is that what law enforcement told us and what mainstream media wants us to believe is not what actually happened, And somewhere within these theories and other creators come up with ideas, they'll contain the truth somewhere. I'm Truth Untold. Thank you for watching. When speaking, people will subconsciously use their hands to gesture, and they won't even be aware that they're doing this. But the universal sign to show that you want to choke someone or that you're angry with someone is to place your hands in front of you like you're wrapping your hands around their neck. So in the next clip, you'll see Nicole Kissinger being asked if she can say Shanann's name. She can't even bring herself to say her name. She describes her as Chris's significant other. But just take a look at what she does with her hands when she's asked to say her
had his
name.
marriage with his wife.
He said.
Do you know her name at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right. And do you know the children's?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right. And do you know the children's name?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay saying her name?
It's Shanann.
All right. And do you know the children's name?
She could barely say Shanann's name. It's almost like she was disgusted to even mention the word Shanann. And she could barely bring herself to say it. But the strange thing that I noticed was the way she outreached her hands as if she was choking someone. When police went to go visit Chris Watts in February 2019 in prison, they were asking him to describe how he dug the grave for Shanann. Take a listen to what he says.
Clear away some weeds and dig a hole.
Okay. Did you have a shovel?
Yeah, we have a shovel, a rake, and a weed whacker.
Wait, what? Did he just say I had a shovel? Or we had a shovel?
Clear away some weeds and dig a hole.
Okay. Did you have a shovel?
Yeah, we have a shovel, a rake, and a weed whacker.
You have to remember this is in 2019, after he's taken the plea deal, and there's no pressure on him. He's not being interrogated. It's not a polygraph situation. He's just having a chat with law enforcement, describing how he dug a grave. But here he is, implying that there's more than one person that had the shovel, that we had a shovel. Is that a coincidence or accomplice involved? You decide. Thanks for watching. Nicole Kissinger's dad was present during her first interview at the police station. The whole setup is as bizarre as the Watts case itself, and it seems like more of a casual chat between friends that know one another than a serious murder investigation. And throughout the entire interview, you clearly see Kissinger's father making a lot of strange hand gestures and subtle movements towards his daughter. At times, he almost looks as if he's bringing his finger to his lips, as to say, shush, or stop talking, Nikki, or be careful not to incriminate yourself. At times, he almost looks as if he's bringing his finger to his lips, as to say, shush, stop talking, Nikki, or be careful not to incriminate yourself. And then there's times he's moving his hands across his leg or the table, almost what looks like when you're reading a book and using your finger, and is maybe a subtle gesture to Kessinger to stick to the script. On occasion, you catch him leaning intensely towards his daughter, staring deeply in her direction, and then almost like he looks at the officer to see if he's watching him, trying to direct his daughter. The fact that her father was there in the first place is a clear indication that the Kessingers were trying to control the investigation from the start. And this is more apparent when her father stops the officer from asking a certain question and is accused of leading. He was instrumental in Kessinger's clean-up of her phone and social media history. She actually admitted this during the interview, explaining that her dad helped with damage control. In my opinion, if a body analyst saw this footage and reviewed her father's behaviour, it would be clear he was trying to subtly tell her to shut up talking and stick to the script that they talked about earlier. Do you see what I see in his behaviour? And once you do notice it, it's hard not to see it every time. And why was her father worried about what his daughter was saying? If in fact she was telling the truth, why was her father trying to direct the conversation? Thanks for watching. We all know that Nicole Kissinger lied many, many times during her interviews with law enforcement. Here is just one of them lies. Take a listen.
Dad.
Did your friends know about him?
Nope.
Why?
Because it's like he's with 2 women right now. They don't
Okay.
need to know about
So
that.
if you had a
So what we just heard was Kessinger answering with a definite no that she didn't tell her friends about Chris Watts. Now have a listen to what Chris Watts has to say.
How about your Facebook account? You deleted that at some point. When did you do that? And
I think
why?
it was, got back August 7th. Went to work. I think it was probably August 8th. That's when Nikki told me she told her friends about me. And I just figured, they probably looked me up on Facebook and see that she was pregnant. If Nikki already knew probably already, but that's the reason why I did that.
So you had Nicole Kissinger saying to law enforcement that she didn't tell her friends that she was seeing Chris Watts. But then you have Chris Watts admitting that she did tell her friends about him, and that is the reason why she told him to delete his Facebook account, so that her friends couldn't see him and his family. Thanks for watching. Nicole Kissinger, in her interview, said that she had a safe house, a safe place where she can go to hide from everyone and get away from everything that was happening. We never actually found out where this place was, or why she even had a place set up where nobody could find her. But Chris, in his interview in February, when law enforcement went to go interview him, he said that Nikki had told him that she was going to Jim's. That is Nicole Kissinger's safe house. Have a listen to Chris tell officers that Nikki told him that she was staying at Jim's and she wouldn't be able to contact him.
Oh,
That was she had told me, this is the last time you'll probably hear from me. I'm going to stay at my friend Jim's place while this is all going on. Should not to contact her until this is done. Still made to delete everything.
We all know the famous quote that she said, "Leave Jim alone." But we didn't know that her safe house was Jim's house. She was going to be staying with Jim. Is this one of the main reasons she didn't want Jim being involved? Why didn't she tell police that she was staying with Jim? If he was just simply a friend of hers, what was the harm in telling the police that she'd be at Jim's house? Coincidence or accomplice? You decide. Chris Watts explained in the February after the murders, in an interview carried out by law enforcement, that his affair with NK felt like he had the blinders over his eyes and couldn't see how toxic and controlling his relationship with Kessinger was. He explained how intense it was, that every spare minute he had when he's not at work or the gym was spent with Kessinger. He practically lived at Kessinger's house through the whole month of July, while Shanann and the kids were away at her parents' house in North Carolina. It paints a stark picture of how intense Kessinger was with him, isolating him from his family, even to the point where he wasn't surrounded by pictures or reminders of what he had at his real home with his real life. Have a listen.
Person and relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What were you thinking this whole time? Like, in the back of your head?
In the back of my head, I was just telling myself, "What are you doing?" Like, every time, I open up my phone, I can see pictures and of my wife and my kids, and just like, what am I doing? And then every time I was with her, it seemed like I didn't think. It seemed like it was like a blinder that was on my face.
Oh.
And it was every time I look back on it, I have pictures of my wife and kids and myself. And every night, or every morning, every night, I just, talk to them, say I have this book. I used to read for CC, and I remember that book, so I read that to them every night. And there's some scripture and stuff that I read to them, so I just try to think back. I wish this never happened. It's I wish that blinder wasn't on my head, wasn't in my eyes. That would have seen what was going on. I was having. Everybody says, "Oh, you're just out there having fun while your kids, or kids and wife are on vacation." I'm just no, it wasn't like that. But it seemed like that's what it looked like when you're going, you're going to camping, going to drag race, going all that other stuff that you have fun doing, but you're with somebody else. It's not your family. It just didn't seem right. With her, it just didn't seem like I could even see that anymore. I was there at her house pretty much every night. So it was I didn't have that time at home just to really think about anything. Literally, I didn't, I was only at home from when I got home from work. I worked out, I ate dinner, and then I went over to her house. I never slept in my house the whole month of July.
Now, talk me through that though. When you said you went home and then you were at her house, was that while Chanel was gone? Oh, okay. So you weren't even at your house.
No.
This all happened so quickly, didn't it?
It was insane quickly. I didn't she even told me she was never a normal relationship. She would never have somebody over at her house more than once or twice a week. But she felt like she wanted me over there.
Yeah.
She said she felt comfortable over there.
Yeah.
So it's just that's what was different. She wanted me over there. But I just wish that all that would just go away. I just wish I almost I know it's hard. I know it's wrong to say I wish I'd never met somebody, but I wish I'd maybe met her at work and then just kept it that way.
I think if we had a time machine, I don't think this would happen again.
Sure.
Because some people, when this happens, you're like, well, if it wasn't this time, it would have been next time, or it would have been the next time. It just wouldn't have happened with you, would it? And it happened so quickly that you tell me if I'm wrong. You're not the type of guy to take control sometimes when you need to.
Yeah,
it seems like that's just what happened.
Yeah, I didn't take control of the situation. It was the situation controlled me.
Right, it just happened. No, I get that, man. I'm somewhat passive myself, and it's there's situations where I'm like, well, why did I let that keep going?
Yeah, I don't know why. It was like a roller coaster ride that I just kept punching and taking on, and just never picked it up.
Can we talk about the hardest subject?
I know we all have free will and create our own destinies with the choices and actions we take. But when you have someone like Kessinger always pecking at Chris's head about finances, not being able to afford certain houses to rent, or that his current situation isn't sustainable, and then on top of that, trying to force him to see how different Kessinger was to Shanann, that Kessinger thought she was better in every way, or asking him if he'd talked to his family, bringing up the fight over Nutgate and emphasising the tear between Shanann and his mum and dad. All of this must have been a major contributor to him doing what he did, and like he said himself, he didn't feel like he was in control, but the situation controlled him. He describes it as a roller coaster ride that he couldn't get off. Thanks for watching.
a lot going on because I'll walk in and there'll be like 2 of them as opposed to like 6 or 7.
Do you know what he did Sunday during the day?
I don't even know what I did on Sunday during the day. I am so tired. Let me just think about this. Daniel came over Friday. I hung out with him Saturday. And then Sunday...
When did Jim come in?
Monday.
Oh.
Jim got here Monday. What did I do on Sunday? I am like drawing a blank. I'm really tired. I don't know. Can I get back to you on that?
Did you guys have any conversations on Saturday night during your meal, what he might be doing on Sunday?
I'm sure we did. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank because I haven't slept.
If I say that he may have done something with his children, would that refresh
yes.
your memory?
He went to a birthday party.
Okay. Did you know whose house he was going to?
Nope. But I know that they had a water balloon fight.
Okay. He had one, or his children?
His children did.
Okay.
He said he used to get really into it. He said he got like really interactive with his kids. He's like, some of the adults don't really spend a lot of time playing with the kids, but
You
I
went
always
to
do.
the museum on what day, Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
Okay.
That's right. So
Okay.
that's what I was like, was I hanging out with you? God.
Very memorable event, huh?
Me and him and my stepmother and my sister went to the museum, and
What
that's
museum?
right, the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And they went to brunch prior to that, and I skipped brunch, and I went to the gym.
You shouldn't have. It was good.
I had to do core day. That was the last time I worked out, actually.
That's
so
what we did Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, so core day, and then we went to the museum, and then.
When did he tell you about the water balloon fight on Sunday evening during your conversation on the phone?
I think so.
Okay. So
We'll get there. We're still on Sunday.
So we're on
night.
Sunday.
We're
gonna get to
This is gonna be a long.
we're gonna
night.
get there to Monday. We're getting there. So Sunday night or Sunday during the day, you.
On our end, we
God,
didn't.
they're so cute. They're so little. Like, why? Why? Ow! I don't even understand. That's right. So that's what I was like. Was I hanging out with you? God.
Very memorable event, huh?
Me and him and my stepmother and my emphasizing to him like he had 3 kids, you know, and like I wasn't even like mad about it. I was just like, you need to find your family. You need
Did he ever?
I have like a safe house in Denver that I can go to, that I have the keys to, that has nobody there ever, and it's all I have to do is check the mail, and there's no questions asked, and nobody knows where it is, and I'm not telling anybody, but it's like a really nice spot for me to like hide out, and I don't have any friends in that building. I mean, it's an apartment, but it's
and we
like
will
safe.
answer your phone calls, but the safe house is from
The safe house is the safe
people
house.
banging on her.
super intelligent. So
I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment. When we go to like trial for this, if that's what he so feels the need to take this to, are you guys gonna help like coach me through these questions?
So we would be.
In February, when federal agents visited Chris Watts in jail, they mentioned some very strange behaviour of Nicole Kissinger. In the days after the murders, he admitted Nicole Kissinger texted him saying some very strange questions. She texted him, "What's the name of his dog? Which yoga studio do I use?" Meaning Kessinger's studio. She's asking Chris this to make sure it is in fact Chris who she's talking to, and by asking only questions he'd know. Have a listen.
Some weird questions, like she kept asking like questions that only I would know, but she was testing to see if like it was actually me on the phone. Like,
what do you mean?
Like she would ask like, you know, like what's my dog's name, or like what do I like, what yoga studio do I go to, or something like that. So just like, like I just answer like I'm, and then like another thing, like, I'm not sure if this is you. I'm just like, okay.
Is this through text or is this through calls?
Text.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't hearing your voice. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible she thought you'd been arrested and we were on the phone?
Either Shanann had my phone or somebody else had my phone, or like maybe, you know, maybe she thought it was.
Well, hopefully Shanann would know all the answers to those questions, right?
No. This is Nikki asking me.
Yeah, but if she's asking you your name of your dog and what yoga studio, and like, wouldn't Shanann know that?
Maybe she thought, you know, maybe I was with Shanann. She was just trying to find out who she was.
Mm.
You have to remember, this is in the middle of a serious murder investigation, and Kessinger's there worrying she's not messaging Chris, and the only reason she'd do this is to not incriminate herself by saying something and sending a message she doesn't want to, either to the police or to someone else. What kind of person does this? What person in the middle of a tragic murder investigation is worried about the information slipping into the wrong hands? The answer is someone who's got a lot to hide. Thanks for watching Truth Untold. Bye.
different over the last, 2 days, 3 days? Odd vehicles, odd noises, odd lights?
There was a truck out here yesterday. In fact, that's why I thought you were here yesterday. Maybe someone complained about that I hadn't seen before.
What type of truck?
It was kind of almost a steel gray.
Okay.
Don't ask me to make
Okay.
year. But that was late afternoon. The dad has a great big truck, and it's gray. But this one was smaller.
Okay.
This one was smaller.
Then,
but I hadn't seen it before, so
Any markings or stickers or anything that would be weird? You wouldn't by chance remember if the plate was green or red or?
No, I kind of just I don't
glanced
pay
at
any
it.
attention because I believe he owns his own business or something because he always has a truck parked there, so kind of.
I gotcha.
I just kind of noticed it wasn't the normal truck.
Was it dirty by any means?
No, it wasn't. And it couldn't have been that old.
Okay. How long was the truck sitting there?
I saw it yesterday morning around 5:15 a.m. because I go to the gym then.
Okay.
It was still there when I got back at 6:45, and then it was there around, I think, noontime.
Preparing for a murder trial, and a murder trial that was going to last years. And all of a sudden I receive a phone call from Detective Baumover, and he said, hey, Chris is going to plead guilty to all charges.
Christopher Watts has pleaded guilty to killing his pregnant wife Shanann and 2 young daughters, Bella and Celeste, and their unborn son Nico.
Whoa, wait, like, we're not done. We have all these things to do. We didn't examine all the evidence. We didn't interview every witness we needed to. We didn't do all of these things that you would do in a normal investigation because he stopped the clock. We were relieved that it was going to be over, but at the same time, we felt like, in a sense, we didn't finish.